Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Mitsurugi, but this time I'm actually on the Fiendsmith variant. It's been a while since I've played a Mitsurugi deck that wasn't using another engine, and I guess to be fair, we are using Fiendsmith here, but this was about as close to pure Mitsurugi as I really was comfortable playing. I think without a Fiendsmith engine you could still do fine, but I really like the idea of having a little bit of extra help for the Mitsurugi deck, especially now that Prayers is at 1. I think if you're going to be doing a pure style deck, Fiendsmith is a lot more enticing. One of the main reasons you wouldn't want to play Fiendsmith in a pure Mitsurugi deck is for playing Dimension Shifter, which is quite good against Cool Tune, but again, I think that having that extra engine is really valuable and impactful. So we're going to begin here with a relatively standard, Mitsurugi line, going for the Futsuno Mitama from deck, adding the Mirror off the Habakiri before we revive. Now we can use Mirror to summon out the Habakiri, the Murakumo from hand by tributing the Futsuno Mitama. And then, of course, after we summon that, we're going to revive the Futsuno Mitama, and I'm going to grab Prayers here. Could have grabbed a Great Purification as well. Now here I make a pretty crucial misclick. I actually meant to set Mitsurugi Prayers, but instead I ended up activating it, which I did not mean to. If it were an older format where Prayers was still at 3, then I'd be a lot more incentivized to activate it as part of my turn 1 line. However, at only 1 copy, I'm not going to get to recycle it, and I can't really search a Great Purification at this point. So, whoops, bit of a misclick as mentioned on my part. I'm going to, however, take advantage of the opportunity of the extra body and do a little bit more comboing. We're going to revive the Kusanagi and then go into Moon. And my plan here was basically to end on Futsuno Mitama plus Caesar plus SP Little Knight and call it good there. So we're going to go for the Fiendsmith's Requiem, Lacrima dumping the Engraver. I haven't normal summoned yet, so I'm just going to throw out this Perilia and then link it off with the Lacrima in order to make sequence, and now I don't have to necessarily use my Engraver. Here, however, my Canine Vanquishable opponent is going to finally throw out the Holly Sue. We're going to chain Murakumo's Negate effect, because there's no reason not to, make them discard a card. They're going to discard an extra copy of Holly Sue, and Futsuno Mitama can now revive the Habakiri. The Heavy Borger is going to activate here, now bouncing Holly Sue in order to summon, and this will trigger the Futsuno Mitama yet again. So my opponent's giving me a lot of advantage here. They're going to end up using Borger to draw a card, which I imagine was their main, strategy here. However, with the addition of these bodies, we can end on a lot more than I was originally planning. Now I can use my extra Habakiri to make the number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. I can revive Engraver by its own effect, then equip it with the Requiem. This will allow me to remove the Heavy Borger on my opponent's field, and also I can link away the Engraver with the Saji to now make IP Masquerena. And keep in mind, we still have not used Sequence's effect yet. I'm going to do that now in order to make the Fiendsmith's Lacrima, which of course will revive Engraver, and then we can make Caesar. On top of also having Droll and Lockbird plus Nibiru in our hand, which is extra cool. So yeah, I'm actually really glad my opponent chose to summon out Holly Sue. They didn't end up gaining any extra advantage for it, and they gave me a ton of extra bodies to work with here. Alright, they're going to go normal summon Raisin across from the Caesar. Now here, I ended up cheating the Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord effect, but I think that was actually a misplay. I was kind of banking on the fact that they would have to search a fire monster to be able to use Raisin's effect, but I should have known as soon as I summoned across from the Caesar that would already be live. So yeah, number 90 I should have saved for after the search, but here, as they're trying to pop my Caesar, we're going to chain the IP and link away the Caesar as a material in order to make the SP Little Knight. I think that also might have been a misplay. I could have made Little Knight at a different timing if I wanted to, but I don't think this is terrible timing either. We can banish the Raisin, and then they will be able to just summon out Rock and then add back the Raisin. We'll make them use some more cards from their hand. They do have Jokul plus Holly Sue. We do know about that, as well as the Ash Blossom. However, I can revive the Murakumo here to try to board wipe. Our opponent is going to chain Call By, but I can still use Little Knight on my opponent's Jokul. So now, even though I don't get the Murakumo effect to board wipe, Our opponent still only has one level 5 monster, and they only have one card left in their hand. So they're not able to make plays with the Holly Sue alone. They're going to link Holly Sue into Rock. We're going to use Futsunomi Tama to keep reviving. They're going to activate Rock in order to add a Vanquish Soul monster from graveyard to hand. It's going to be the Holly Sue. Futsunomi Tama revives Kusanagi. Kusanagi is going to grab prayers from the graveyard to hand for some follow-up. And after battling, they're then going to go into the Typhone. I'm not quite sure why they battled there, because I'm pretty sure you don't need to for Typhone, right? It's just your opponent has to have summoned 2 monsters, but maybe they got it mixed up with Zeus or something, I don't know. Either way, another special summon, another summon from our graveyard. We're going to revive Saji, grab the Ritual. They're going to get rid of our number 90, but I'm not even going to Nibiru here because my board is a lot better than my opponent's, and I want to keep it. So on my follow-up turn, we're going to go for the Mitsurugi Ritual. This will bait out their Ash Blossom. And at this point, we are able to go for the Mitsurugi Prayers. Going to tribute off the Saji in order to add Murakumo, really just so that I can trigger the Saji effect. We also get to revive the Habakiri here, which is nice. Now, Murakumo might be negated because of both Called by the Grave, and even if not that, the Typhone is on the board. However, I can still summon it for 3,200 attack points on my side of the field. Of course, Habakiri gets to revive, we can even shuffle back Mirror, and I'm going to add Great Purification for good measure, not that we're going to end up needing it because we're about to OTK our opponent here in just a moment. We'll flip everything else to attack mode, enter battle phase, and yeah, as you can see here, our damage greatly outweighs theirs. No problem finishing them off in this situation. So yeah, I definitely, pretty huge misclick there, activating the prayers instead of setting it. However, at the end of the day, I'm actually pretty glad that things turned out the way they did, because again, our opponent making turn 0 plays actually just ended up making our end board way better, while not really giving them any more options on theirs. Which of course we love to see. Here's some more gameplay. Okay, how about some Cool Tune games? How about some going second Cool Tune games? Yeah, Cool Tune is not the kind of deck you want to be going second against, but of course that doesn't mean the game is unwinnable by any stretch of the imagination. Fulos here is definitely going to be helping, but the Wosu is actually a very welcome sight here too. They're going to normal summon Cool Tune Q. Of course, we're going to fire off the Fulos in response. And they actually end up summoning the Naturia Rosewhip from the deck. They've already got a Rotary in hand, so basically what they're going to do here is just go for the Track Maker. Now that'll give me one more draw off the Fulos. However, they do get to look at my hand and the top of my deck, in addition to getting their searches. I'm going to use Valor in order to stop one of the searches from Track Maker, and that way we only have to deal with one Cool Tune Synchro here. Now here, Q is going to find Ash Blossom and Aramasa. They're going to banish Aramasa and put Ash Blossom on top. This is a scenario, though, where I definitely think they should have done the Chain Link in such a way where they saw my hand before looking at the top of my deck, because I don't think they necessarily wanted me to have Ash Blossom there. Especially given that they just searched a Cool Tune Synchro. They did get to see my hand, however. Alright, we're going to draw that Ash Blossom for a turn. We're going to go Wosu, and then activate. They're going to chain the Cool Tune Synchro here. And I actually was not able to chain the Ash Blossom. I remember this distinctly during my actual gameplay. Not quite sure why. I only got the option to chain Cross-Out Designator here. Probably, oh, you know what? Nor activate the monster effects for the rest of the turn except reptile monsters. Yeah, I thought that this was only monster effects on the field for some reason, but no, Wosu is just monster effects, period. So, no Ash Blossom against the opponent's Cool Tune Synchro here, unfortunately. That said, I'm really not that worried about it, because what they ended up adding was Cool Tune Mix, meaning they can really only go for the Loudness War. Now, Mix can pop Wosu here, and then Loudness War can threaten to pop another monster. Actually, they're going to bounce the Track Maker, way better for me. But yeah, I'm not scared by Loudness War threatening to pop a monster or bounce a card. That's not really an issue either way. Okay, so we get to go for the Mitsurugi Ritual here. We're going to summon out the Habakiri by sending Aramasa plus Kusanagi. Now we can use Kusanagi to add back Ritual. Aramasa is going to do Search. And here they're going to use the Loudness War to have Mix pop the Habakiri. I actually do think this is a good play. Getting the Habakiri off the field means I can't tribute it for the ritual in order to revive and then search, but they did also bounce the Wosu. I really think if they had popped Wosu with Mix earlier, they would have been in such a better position, but I guess to be fair, I still could have just tributed the Murakumo in my hand to then summon the Futsu no Mitama from deck. Then I could have gone Mirror, tribute the Futsu no Mitama to revive Murakumo anyway. So it probably wouldn't have been that different in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, so we're going to go Chain Link 1, Futsu no Mitama, Chain Link 2, Murakumo. They're going to finally throw out the card they had been kind of getting past priority with the whole time, Effect Veiler. Here, I thought I had actually put in a Veiler as a cross-out target, but it turns out I hadn't. I think I did end up... Oh, you know what? It's because I had the Veiler and I'm only on one copy. Yeah, it's right here. I was going to say, oh, I did end up putting in a Veiler later, but no, I had one in now. I just already drew it. I am actually rocking a single Effect Veiler for Cross-Out Designator because of how prominent Cool Tune and Dracotale are, which are both almost always on Effect Veiler. Anyway, can't OTK them, we can still set Great Purification and pass. They're going to throw out a Synchro Overtake, we can chain Ash Blossom in order to negate that. And now they have 2 cards left with me having Murakumo and Great Purification, so I'm not really worried. They're going to end up normal summoning Cool Tune Clip and then tuning with the Cypher Gear Delta in hand in order to make the Track Maker. Now Track Maker Chain Link 1, Clip Chain Link 2. I'm going to use the Futsu no Mitama in order to revive Habakiri here. No sense trying to negate because I don't really care about the clip effect. Yeah, I don't care about losing King of the Feral Imps at all here. They can add Cool Tune Synchro, but now that's really the only play they've got left because I'm going to draw and Lockbird them. They can chain Cool Tune Synchro, but now I negate with Murakumo. And with no more cards left in hand, they cannot discard, meaning the Cool Tune Synchro has to be negated, and now all they have left is the one Track Maker with no ability to search for the remainder of the turn. Another pretty easy dub right there. Let's take a look at another Cool Tune game. For this duel, we are going first against Cool Tune this time. Let's see what we got. Alright, going into our opening hand here. And not the most ideal, but Saji plus Ritual is actually enough to get us there. We're going to go normal summon Saji and use it to add prayers, then we can activate prayers in order to grab the Habakiri. Next up, we're going to activate Habakiri, special summoning Aramasa and then tributing. Now Aramasa can add a Murakumo, and from here we're finally going to throw out the Ritual. We'll get rid of our remaining Aramasa plus a Kusanagi from our deck, and since we've already got the Murakumo in hand, let's go ahead and slap that down. Now, of course, our Kusanagi gets to activate, wheeling the Ritual back to hand. We're then going to activate Ritual, tributing the Murakumo in order to summon out the Futsu no Mitama from deck. Now, I am going to make a bit of a misplay here. I definitely was supposed to add Mitsurugi Mirror at this point, but I totally forgot about it and just added Great Purification instead. So, what this is going to change is it means that now, instead of being able to turn Habakiri plus Saji into Moon of Closed Heaven, now I have to do it with Murakumo. Not the end of the world, because I already have Futsu no Mitama out, but obviously it would have been a lot nicer to just have Murakumo plus Great Purification up going into the opponent's turn. Could have used Murakumo's negate early, potentially, as well as Great Purification to tribute and then board wipe at a more opportune time. But, again, not the end of the world here. We'll just have one less body as we go into our Fiendsmith line. And I guess that's also going to kind of impact, like, even if I didn't want to keep the Murakumo around, I still could have linked to Murakumo plus Sequence into SP Little Knight. So that is another way in which the end board is going to be weaker as a result of me forgetting to add the mirror here. Speaking of forgetting stuff, during this play session, I actually totally forgot about pre-preparation of rights. So I wasn't even on the deck's arguably best starter for this play session. I'm even playing 2 Mitsurugi Mirror, and I just forgot the pre-preps. Oh, so embarrassing. But we got the Sequence, we got the Futsu no Mitama, we got the Caesar, and after our opponent activates JJ Cool Turn, they're actually going to just immediately concede the game to us because they realize that they were just completely out of their depth here, which our end board doesn't look like the most impressive, but think about it, right? If they go normal summon any tuner monster and try to activate JJ Cool Tune, we can just negate with Caesar. If they normal summon Rekko or Q and try to start plays that way, or mix, we can negate and destroy with the Great Purification. If they try to special summon, we can throw down the Murakumo off the Futsu no Mitama at any moment, and they weren't even aware of the Maxi plus Ghost spell that we were holding onto in this hand. So all in all, I think we were pretty well prepared for just about anything our opponent could have realistically thrown out at us. But there we go. Another dub against Cool Tune is definitely all good in my book. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list, and I'll go ahead and show you what we're working with. Okay, here is the list for Fiendsmith Mitsu. Now, as I mentioned during that last replay, I actually forgot pre-preparation of rights initially here for the build. It's like, you know, Bonfire in Ryzeal and Snake Eye. I always forget the spells that search that aren't part of the actual archetype, but what I had in before is I had 2 Perilia, and I was at 40 cards, so I took out the 2 Perilia and put in 3 pre-preparation of rights going up to 41, which I think is totally fine, especially because we're on 2 Mirror. And, well, Mirror is not a terrible card to open in a lot of hands. Obviously, it's a bit of an issue if you only play 1 and then you try to open the pre-prep as well, or try to activate pre-prep, I should say, after having opened it, but yeah, so like I said, this is a little bit closer to pure Mitsurugi, I guess, than like the Ryzeal variant. I guess really the only indication of that is the fact that we're playing Wosu. And also the fact that the Fiendsmith engine, I guess to be fair, we do pivot into it with the Mitsurugi line a lot of the time. At the end of the day, I think that the Ryzeal variant is definitely stronger, but this does have a lot more flexibility in terms of deck building, right? In terms of the extra deck, there's a ton of different options here. I'm even playing a bunch of fringe stuff, that doesn't really come up as often for Fiendsmith, like the Chaos Angel. And then we also have the Lina Chorozo line. This, I do think, is actually a little bit more important now that Prayers is at 1, because if we're playing the Lina Chorozo line, then all of a sudden our Fiendsmith cards can pivot into Mitsurugi plays. For those unfamiliar, the idea is that if you open one of your Fiendsmith starters but no Mitsurugi cards, you can use your Fiendsmith starter, like let's say it's Engraver, right? You go Engraver for Tract, Tract for Lurie, summon Lurie off its own effect, link Lurie into Requiem, and then Requiem for Lacrima, dump the other Engraver, right? The idea at that point is that you can then go revive the Engraver, and you can make Lina, the Light Charmer, lustrous, but you gotta use another body because you have to keep the Lacrima on the field. Then you can equip Requiem from the graveyard to Lacrima, then you can send Lina plus Requiem for Chorozo. At that point, your field is Chorozo plus Lacrima, you can overlay them into King of the Fairlimps, search Habakiri, and that's how you go Mitsurugi off the Fiendsmith line. Again, now that Prayers is at 1 copy, I actually think this is a pretty important line to have for this variant. But like I said, there's a ton of flexibility here in terms of both the extra deck and also the main deck here as well. We have a lot more room to play stuff like Wosu, which does help a lot of the time. The board breaking effect is particularly good in this meta, and even against a deck like Cool Tune. For example, in our game, we used it against the Naturia Rose Whip, but if your opponent ends their turn on like a remix or the back-to-back, for example, the monsters that let them keep synchro summoning on your turn, you can just use the Wosu to tribute them away. Or if they end on Zaylin trying to negate your stuff, again, Wosu tributes it and doesn't start a chain link. Just gotta watch that reptile lock effect, like it kind of affected us in our duel there. But yeah, I think that this variant has a lot of merit in terms of how, again, just how flexible it is in terms of deck building, the off-engine hand traps you get to play, and other tech cards to counter the specific meta. I was thinking about playing Super Poly in this deck as well. You definitely have space for it in the extra deck, and Super Polymerization does end up being very, very good against Cool Tune in the current meta. But I think that's about everything I have to say for this deck for the time being. So as always, I want to give you all a huge thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. It's one of the best ways to support not just me, but any smaller YouTube channel out there. And speaking of support, we can't end a video without going to the end credits and thanking our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers for their extra special support. So let's go ahead and move on to that outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.